Yep.
Okay, my name is Boalar, and I'm going to explain complex instruction to you, an approach that's been designed to make work equal. It was designed by Elizabeth Cohen, and it's particularly for use in mixed ability classes. Now, we know from research that when students work together and discuss maths, they enjoy it more and they also achieve at high levels. It's a very successful teaching approach, but only when groups are managed well. And sometimes teachers use groups, they don't go down very well, particularly when students are at very different places in terms of what they know and can do. So this approach was really designed to help group work run smoothly. And I'm going to take about 6 minutes to go through the 4 parts of complex instruction. But elsewhere on the website there are longer descriptions of how it works, also examples of teachers using complex instruction in England, and more explanations. But anyway, the 4 parts of complex instruction are, first of all, students work in groups. They work on rich tasks, such as those on the Enrich website, and they have roles in the groups. And they're called things like the facilitator, the recorder-reporter. Again, there's more detail elsewhere on the website about the roles. But the idea of them is that everybody has something important to do, and a task can't be completed without everybody being involved. A second piece, which is really interesting, is that classes are multidimensional. And I think the best way to explain that is to say that in a unidimensional class, there's really one dimension of success. So traditional maths classes are often very unidimensional. The way to be successful is to watch a teacher demonstrate procedures and reproduce them. Some students are very good at that, others are not so good, and usually everybody knows who everybody is. But that's a kind of unidimensional class. What happens in complex instruction is the teachers say, we want the class to be multidimensional. So in mathematics, the maths teachers would say, executing procedures is one way of being mathematical, but actually there are lots of ways of being mathematical. If we look at the work of a mathematician, they have to ask good questions, they have to be able to rephrase problems, represent them in different ways and communicate. And basically the teachers say, we're not just going to value these different ways of being mathematical, but we're not just going to encourage them, but we're going to value them equally and assess students on all of these ways of working. And what we found was that when we've asked students who work traditionally, what does it take to be successful in maths class, they usually say, paying attention. When we asked students who worked in the complex instruction approach, they came out with a whole range of things. They say you have to ask good questions, rephrase problems, explain, use logic, justify methods, use manipulatives or apparatus, and help others. So they have a much broader version of mathematics, and we've seen great successes of students working in this approach. And at its most simple, really, the way we analyse it is to say that many more students were successful because there are many more ways to be successful. So even though the test that students have to do may not assess this broader form of mathematics, because students have been made to feel good about different parts of the way they work, they do better on tests as well. And really the mantra of the schools, the mantra that's used in the schools that use complex instruction is that nobody's good at all of these ways of working, but everybody's good at some of them. And that's how they really support and bring in a wider group of kids. This is some students talking about it, saying, these are US students, saying, back in middle school the only thing you worked on was your math skills, but here you work socially, you also try to learn to help people and get help, like you improve on your social skills, math skills and logic skills. And another student saying, with math you have to interact with everybody and talk to them and answer their questions. You can't be just like, oh, here's the book, look at the numbers and figure it out. And we asked, why is that different from math? And they said, it's not just one way to do it, it's more interpretive. It's not just one answer, there's more than one way to get it, and then it's like, why does it work? And they're describing their students we watch to work in groups on problems, but they also get some opportunities to present their work and to discuss it as a whole class, and they talk to each other asking questions like, why does that work? And they are really talking about the sort of broad form of mathematics. The third piece, assigning competence, is an interesting teacher move, where what's recommended is if groups are working and a student might be left out or not keeping up or just not as involved, the teachers go over and they assign competence. And I really only understood this when I saw it in action, when a teacher went over to a group of students and one of the students was kind of left out. And while he was standing there, the boy said something very small. He just said, "Oh, that's like the other question we did." And the teacher picked up on that and said, "That's right, that is like the other question we did, and that's a very important point that everybody should think about how they're similar." And that was a moment of taking something a student had said and raising the status of it deliberately to try and make the groups more equal. And actually it worked very well. It did help the students feel more involved and and be more involved in the problems. And then the fourth piece, which is really huge, is that students were taught to be responsible for each other's learning. So often this happens in mixed ability classes, but students still stay together on problems. They work together, helping each other and supporting each other. So very different from classrooms where some students are pushed onwards and upwards. And actually we've found from research results that the high achieving students, who many worry about in such an approach, do very, very well. But students are helping each other and supporting each other, and the teachers enact a number of practices to help students be responsible for each other. One is sometimes they do group tests, which are described elsewhere, but they also would go over to a group working together and ask one student to answer a question, and if they could answer it, great, and so the group needs to help the student understand, and I'll come back and ask again. In this next extract, a student's talking about that particular teaching move, and we asked her, is learning math an individual or a social thing? She said it's like both, because if you get it, then you have to explain it to everyone else. And then sometimes you have a group problem and we all have to get it, so I guess both. And the other girl says, I think both, because individually you have to know the stuff yourself so that you can help others in your group work and stuff like that. You have to know it so you can explain it to them, because you never know which one of the four people she's going to pick. And it depends on that one person that she picks to get the right answer. So they know that the teacher's going to come over and ask one student, and that helps them work together. And what we found is that students in these mixed ability classes actually learn to help each other, enjoy doing that. So they know that not everybody is the same, but they come to appreciate that, and that's one of the nice outcomes. And this student reflects that when he said, everybody's in there is at a different level, but what makes the class good is that everybody's at different levels, everybody's constantly teaching each other and helping each other out. So those briefly are the four parts of complex instruction on the outer blue circle. There were other things that teachers did when they used this approach to make it very successful, but much more detail is given on how to use the approach and videos of teachers using it elsewhere on the website.